leaders who have emotional intelligence know how to inspire the people they work with. Those who don't have emotional intelligence, lack that inspiration. They'll just be giving instruction, direction. Do this my way. Another reason it's important for leaders to develop emotional intelligence is to know that your role is not a commander but a facilitator of ideas. So if you lead a team of, let's say, 4 people, your idea, if you lead a team of 4 people and your idea is what they use to run the team, then you are not a leader. It should be their ideas, but you facilitate it, right? You bring it together, you let them see, oh, okay, let us look for the best way to go. Because it's not always about command and control based on your instruction. It's about helping people to grow. In fact, the biggest thing about leadership is not just about telling people what to do. It's about helping them to become who they wouldn't have been if they were not working with you.
So welcome to the show,
Doctor. Thank you.
I find like many of your work inspiring in terms of what you are striving towards, building people. But I actually want myself and those listening and watching to try to get a bigger view into like who you are and what your goal is. So if you'd introduce yourself and your passion.
Okay, well, my name is Abiola Salami. Officially, they say Dr. Abiola Salami. About 12 years ago, I started a firm called Champ. And before then, I'd been around in the corporate world. I'd worked in banking, I'd worked in consulting, I'd worked in an NGO, I'd worked in health insurance sector as well. But prior to all of that, my penultimate year in uni, I discovered a path, that what the purpose of my life, should be. And you could describe me then as a multi-talented person. And I realized that you can be multi-talented and multi-confused at the same time, because you can do a number of things well, not just because you're interested in doing them, because you can do a number of things well. I did music, a bit of music, and I was doing it well. I mean, I played the piano, played the drums, played the bass guitar, I could write songs. I was doing music directorship big time back in school. I could act as well. I had a few stints on some movies and some series as well. And of course, I also had that intellectual prowess. So I was not the kind of person that you would say, oh, I wasn't doing well in class, but I did well in music, so my line is music. Or I wasn't doing well in class, but I'm doing well, acting, so mine is entertainment. No, I was good on all fronts, so it was now a time for me to choose, what exactly I wanted to focus on. And I realized that it's about using all my skills, the music, the acting, the intellectual prowess, to make people to know better so they can think better and do better. To help people to know better so they can, it informs how they think about themselves, about life, about what they want to do. That now helps them to do better. But even myself, and then I needed help, because I didn't know as much as I needed to know. I didn't have the exposure. I didn't have many things to help me operate on the level I would have loved to operate, to influence people to know better so they can think better and do better. And so I took some time to go through what I would call apprenticeship, which is about working in different organizations, not because of what I want to get, but because of what I continue to give in those organizations to help myself to grow, as well. And then fast forward to many years later, when it was time to start Champ, started Champ. And what's Champ about? It's a global consultant firm that is driving a culture of peak performance on the continent, driving a culture of peak performance. A culture of peak performance. Culture is the aggregate behavior, of people. And so what we're looking at is to have many of us, male, female, young, old, whoever you are on this continent, that your behavior, the way you behave in the marketplace, is towards not mediocre performance, not audio performance. Audio performance you hear but you don't see it. Not audio performance, but excellence, the highest level, of performance. So whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are in a career somewhere, whatever it is that you are doing, that you are in the 1% of the 1% of those who are delivering excellence, and that's the work we do.
Oh, interesting. So from what you mentioned, you were jack of many trades and master of many of them also. So I see that you are very big on emotional intelligence and how it affects either individuals or how organizations operate. Can you speak a bit more about that?
Emotional intelligence is a crucial skill that we often ignore. Even the World Economic Forum continues to state it as one of the top most important skills for leaders, to develop. And we're in a time where a lot of people want to become leaders because they think the position is attractive, without necessarily seeking to sit down to learn how to become a leader. There are people who want to jump up, and then be in positions. And one of my favorite sayings: if you jump up, you will come down, but if you grow up, you will stay up. And growth takes some time, but we're in a time where people don't really care about the time to grow. They just want to jump from here, to there. And then there will be a lot of chaos because they didn't spend time growing and learning and developing themselves, so that they can function effectively when they get into that office, whether it's in the private sector or in the public sector. So emotional intelligence is important for every one of us. One of the things emotional intelligence does for you is it helps you to manage your emotions effectively. A few moments ago, something happened that distracted our conversation, right? Without emotional intelligence, there's another way that could have been handled. The guy that was told to repark, could say, what, I'm done, right? I can't handle this again. And then, of course, he went outside. There was a lot of back and forth, Without emotional intelligence, one won't be able to check that feeling that may lead to an unproductive behavior. So many times we just see behaviors without necessarily paying attention to the driving force for that behavior. So when we have emotional intelligence, we are able to understand our own feelings. Based on our understanding, we choose what we say and we do to help us to take the right steps that will help us achieve our goals. We're in a time where people post different kinds of things, on social media, uncensored. While some are posting it because they want likes and followership and all that, other people think that that's the place to express, whatever it is they want to express. With emotional intelligence, you're able to sift what it is you put out there. It helps you to also think about your future, you in 10 years' time, you in 15 years' time. And because there are a lot of people who actually killed their future 15 years ago by some activities, they're engaging in. Of course, when you're engaging in those activities, your friends, your friends on that same level may be applauding, the behavior, but something that may work against the individual's career, later on in the future. So emotional intelligence helps us to manage our emotions. It helps us to control what we say and what we do. Now, it doesn't mean you won't feel angry, for example. You may feel angry, but how you express that anger is critical. Some people are aggressive in the way they express the anger, and you can express it aggressively, and it may have some repercussions. Some people are passive in the way they express the anger, maybe because they go to a church that says, "Blessed are the peacemakers," and they just keep quiet, But that doesn't also help, because at some point in time, the individual may blow up, in the workplace. The person may have some repressed anger, and one day will just look at his or her boss and say what he or she is not supposed to say to the person, and that's the end of the career. Or say it to a customer, and that's the end of the career. Or say it to somebody powerful somewhere, that can chase you back to your village, and then that will be the end of the person's career. So repressed emotions is not good, which is when we are passive with anger as our example, or when we are aggressive, that is excessive. Where we want to be is where we want to be assertive, where you can talk about what is making you angry, without necessarily overcompensating for what it is that is going on. But it's emotional intelligence that helps to handle that. And that's just anger. There are a number of other things. There are 12 skills under emotional intelligence that every one of us must master. Whether you are in tech or you're not in tech, whether you're a tech bro, a tech sis, whether you're a leader or you're not, whether you're just starting in the marketplace, whoever you are, there are 12 skills, that it's important for all of us to develop. The first is self-awareness, understanding your emotions, understanding the triggers of your emotions. I fondly say understanding your mumu button. Every one of us will have what somebody will press or what somebody would say, and that will get you, to behave in a way you can't control. And there are 11 others, but let's just hold on there.
Okay, so I think your definition of emotional intelligence has come from an angle of application. Would you be able to define it simply so that at the end of the day, even when one wants to apply it, they will at least think of that definition? So you've talked a lot about the application internally. So what would I say emotional intelligence is?
Emotional intelligence is just my ability to understand my emotions. And based on my understanding of my emotions, I can choose what I say or what I do to help me to achieve my goal. And so I don't work against my own goal, so that I may want to express a particular emotion, but when I understand that this is how unique it is, for me, somebody out there, maybe it's nicknames, that triggers you. And then the moment somebody calls you a nickname like that, you can get excited or you can get angry, whichever of the two. It doesn't really matter. But what really matters is what you now do afterwards. When you go for parties in Lagos, you see the singers, they know how to use emotional intelligence on the audience. And the moment you show up with if they think that you have some money in your pocket, they'll start calling your name. What they are doing is pressing your mumu button. And as they are doing that, your head is swelling, and then you can dash them your entire salary, or dash them the investment you should have used to start a business. You just keep on spraying. They'll be singing your praises, and then because there's no control, over your emotion. Now, I'm not saying it is bad, to give money when people are singing, but I'm saying that we need to have control. It becomes a problem when it's in a place where the moment anybody says or sings your praises, for example, you just, give them all that you have, and maybe even go and borrow, to give them, So emotional intelligence, my ability to understand my emotions, to control my emotions, to understand the emotions of other people, and to build win-win relationships with them.
I see. I think as humans, we are quite disruptive, right? And learning how to control our emotions is actually very, very important. Can you give one particular use case? I think you gave one now with the vehicle parking or something, but if you can give one either in the corporate space or in terms of an individual. And I don't think it should be in terms of how bad it's turned out. I think it should also be how they applied emotional intelligence. One other thing also is the example you gave in terms of the party and spraying. Whenever I thought or think of emotional intelligence, I always think of getting in a situation that could make you angry and you choosing not to be angry, probably just processing internally and expressing structurally in a way that is productive, as you've put it, right? But I didn't think of it in terms of there could also be lack of emotional intelligence when it is not even about anger. For example, the party sort of thing. So it seems like it is in a spectrum and not just towards, I always thought of it towards anger, which was why I was looking for a definition before. I always thought of it towards anger in terms of when something makes you angry, demonstrate emotional intelligence. I guess it could also be applied to other areas that are not just about you being angry.
You see,
and things like
anger is just one emotion. There are a lot of emotions we express, or rather, there are a lot of emotions we feel, right? So, emotional intelligence is about the guided expression of how you feel. You can feel angry. It doesn't mean you should express that anger in an unproductive way. Fear is another emotion that we have, and the fact that you are afraid doesn't mean it should cripple you from doing what you are supposed to do, right? So it's also about how you express it. And let me talk about fear a little bit. So this is my personal example. I was in some years ago, I was on a reality TV show called The Debaters. You may or may not know it. And so after The Debaters, I started getting some public appeal, and so I was receiving invites, to speak in a number of places. And speaking of speaking, the fear of public speaking is another reality. And if the fact that you feel the fear, emotional intelligence is helping you that although you feel the fear, but you can still develop the courage to do what you are meant to do, and gradually that fear will disappear. The courage, it said that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to continue to work so that you conquer that fear. And so when you don't develop emotional intelligence, your willingness to continue is weakened. So if it's public speaking, for example, the moment they call you, the same you can have a conversation in the presence of 5 of your friends, everybody will have a great time. But the moment they change the structure and say these 5 friends sit down and then you stand up, to talk to them, and then you just find out that you're not coherent, again. But what to do is when you start, you may feel the fear. Courage is that you continue. As you continue, you develop confidence along the line. But when we don't invest in emotional intelligence, we're unable to strengthen our willpower that will now help you to develop courage when you continue. And one of the easiest ways to develop emotional intelligence is to even check within your friends. If all the people you communicate with frequently, if they have stage fright, if they have some form of fear, even if you did not have it before, it will jump on you. Why? It's by association. If you check a group of friends where maybe if someone insults one person, and then when they insult, say, me never, for don't slap all of those things. Even if you're not that kind of person, if those were your friends, along the line, one day somebody will do something small, and then you slap the person, and then you become you become a sensation for doing that kind of thing. So I'm saying that emotional intelligence is not just about anger. There are a number of emotions we feel, and it is important that we cultivate emotional intelligence so that the expression of that emotion will still help us to achieve our goal.
How important is it for leaders to possess emotional intelligence?
Very important. Because a number of issues will press your mumu button. Your team members could, on purpose, they know what they are doing. They will press it on purpose. And when you react, they won't talk about what they did. Everybody will talk about your response. Some 2 years ago or thereabout, something was trending, horrible bosses. Nobody talked about the horrible team members. We have a lot of horrible team members, horrible bosses. And that just shows where the responsibility lies. That most people will look at the leader, not necessarily about who's pressing the trigger. It is also important for leaders to cultivate emotional intelligence to drive peak performance, to provide good leadership for your team members and to help them to develop self-confidence. There are young people who are competent technically on the work that they are doing, but their person on the inside is still caged. Their person on the inside is seeking expression, and because there's no guided leader to help them express themselves the right way, any way they find to express themselves is okay by them. And what now makes that more unfortunate is that they are expressing themselves within their peers who are equally seeking opportunity for expression, and there is nobody really having that capacity to guide them so that that energy is properly directed and the energy is not just dissipated, onto unproductive behaviors. So it's really critical for leaders to develop emotional intelligence. Another reason it's really critical for leaders to develop emotional intelligence, is to retain team members. So you find out that in the marketplace, when you're working with someone and you're not really feeling yourself, you're not really feeling motivated. Now, I'm not talking about people who have unrealistic expectations, because left to some people, just be increasing their salary every week, even if they are not doing anything. I'm not talking about those kinds of people. I'm talking about people who are really committed, to the project, to the work at hand, but they're not feeling, leadership from the leader. They're not feeling inspired, by the leader. Leaders who have emotional intelligence know how to inspire the people they work with. Those who don't have emotional intelligence, lack that inspiration. They'll just be giving instruction, direction. Do this my way. Another reason it's important for leaders to develop emotional intelligence is to know that your role is not a commander, but a facilitator of ideas. So if you lead a team of, let's say, 4 people, if you lead a team of 4 people and your idea is what they use to run the team, then you are not a leader. It should be their ideas, but you facilitate it, right? You bring it together, you let them see, okay, let us look for the best way to go. Because it's not always about command and control based on your instruction. It's about helping people to grow. In fact, the biggest thing about leadership is not just about telling people what to do. It's about helping them to become who they wouldn't have been if they were not working with you. So leadership is growing people's skills, helping them to become leaders themselves.
I see. Very interesting. I think we'll come back to the leadership aspect. I think we've touched quite a bit on that. Social media currently is breeding a ground for misunderstanding. Not even currently, since inception. I think it has become a place where, I think, as you said before, people are able to express themselves, and many people in unruly way. So how do you think we as youths can redeem ourselves in that regard? Social media.
Okay. A few things to consider. One is that many times nobody has asked for your opinion, but you are putting out an opinion. Say, this is my own 2 kobo. This is what I think. And while it's good to express, you always want to think further than the year we're in. You always want to think further than where you are at the moment. You always, before you post anything, you want to ask yourself, this thing I'm about to post now, is there a possibility that it may stand against something for me, tomorrow? Even if someone has insulted you, we also like to applaud clapbacks, and then you're looking for the person that gave the best clapback. But it's to think about it that whatever career you've chosen, whatever business you want to do, how will this work for or against me? But most times we don't think that way. We just hide behind our keypads and we type whatever we want to type. Anyway, it's just to be a bit more introspective. Just to think. It is okay to have some conversations within your friends, but when you write it down, it's another thing. There are loads of stories of people who have lost job opportunities because of certain things that they said, people who have lost businesses because of certain things, that they said. And so you just want to ensure that whatever you are putting out is not just because something is trending. You want to think far. Somebody said that he that cannot see the ultimate is a slave to the immediate. So as a young person, you want to be thinking about you in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, in 20 years' time, about the things that you are doing. So you don't want to be a slave to what is trending today and then trade that for your possibilities in 10, 15, 20 years' time.
I see. But we're people of our time. So putting your opinion out there, there are many opinions that are actually not great, but I don't want this particular view to feel like not a request for people not to express themselves fully, because there are certain people that even express themselves that at the end of the day, even you might even be, when I say you, I don't mean you, or I mean like an average person might actually be jealous that why am I also not able to express myself fully this way, right? And we are people of our time in terms of we are the social media generation, probably not us, but we are actually in the social media generation. And you would see that those that excel in things at the end of the day might not be the most competent in terms of intellectually, but the game is the game. And if the game applauds and pushes people that expresses themselves in this unruly manner that we might be saying now that might not be fully okay, if the game applauds those people, and there are people inspiring now to be those people, how would they end up being as big as those people if they, for example, have to think about every single tweet that they want to put out?
Well, I just share with you my opinion, and I've not said that everybody should not do whatever they are doing. I just laid out what to consider. If you want to be successful, there are many ways to become successful. The game is the game that you're talking about. There are many ways, to do it. But you're also looking at what is sustainable. You're also looking at as you are doing what you are doing that is projecting you, what are you also creating? Are you creating something progressive, for generally, or you're just riding on the wave of whatever it is, to push yourself up? Which I'm not sure that is why I'm here to have this conversation, because that's not what I stand for. What I stand for, what I try to do with my life is develop my competence, is continue to serve as much as I can, continue to add value to people, whether it is commercial or non-commercial, upholding integrity as much as possible, having values, and it's not just about becoming successful money-wise, becoming successful by your publicity, that a lot of people know you, that you're popular, you're a celebrity, because when you check well, and this is because of the work, part of the work that I do, coaching, when you check well, there are a lot of people who are publicly successful, but they are dead privately. So you see them, they wear the best of makeup, they ride the best of cars, they flaunt it on social media, you're saying God when, and they continue to do that, and you are in the corner of your own room, still hoping for the next meal, and then you're seeing them, and you probably want to model whichever way they got to where they get to. Some of them are spraying cash, but they are depressed and dead inside. And a lot of stories, out there about people who became successful. Not that they went to do juju or all of those things people say. They rode on some of these things, and but they are not. They don't have a sense of fulfillment. The only sense of fulfillment they have comes from the outside. And for you to really be, yes, you want to pay bills, yes, you want to even show your village people that you have arrived, all of those things. But there's something greater even than that, which is when you're with yourself alone, looking at the mirror, how you see yourself, how the confidence you have in yourself, the self-assurance, not what you are getting from public applause. There was an artist whose name I won't mention. Some people will know the story. There was an artist that the moment public applause ceased, she went back to rehab, and she did not come back. By coming back, I mean she eventually died without getting back to who she used to be. So most part of your success as you're thinking about becoming successful shouldn't be about the outside things, extrinsic. It should be intrinsic. So you have a lot more people that will be depressed, but we have money. You have a lot of people, that will commit suicide, but they will be successful. You have a lot of people that will just die, and it's because of some of these things that we don't pay attention to.
So, okay. So there are two things to this. I think the first one is the problem in the society, and the second one is standard. And I would like for us to look at both things.
Okay.
So problem in society is the sort of things that we find ourselves encouraging in society. I think it's a big problem. So whether people are involved in internet, like they are internet fraudsters, people that are just suddenly rich, but you are not able to trace what they do. And at the end of the day, we applaud I don't want to call it results, because results will be when you actually do some work. I guess even doing illegal things is still a starting kind of
that's result.
But
Result, you can call it results. So when you have money, that's what they call results.
Exactly. So we as a society, I think it is ingrained in who we are. And I think that is something that is fighting against us a lot right now. I don't want to touch like anything political, but let's talk about non-political things. Because if I were to touch anything political, it would be about people wanting to go into office just because they're expecting money. And I read a story, I even think this morning in a book, where the guy said he was a special advisor and his salary was 250,000 naira. But immediately he got that role, and the special advisor role is 250,000 naira salary. Everybody was expecting him to be in a Jeep, and was expecting him to be in this. And I'm sure some of those people expecting that, it is just the way society has trained their minds, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a plague that we are currently facing. Because if we do not recalibrate ourselves as a society to applaud the things that matter, we would keep pushing the worst of us out. So, and that's one of our biggest problems, because at the end of the day, most people that get into leadership position, not necessarily even political, most people that get into leadership are the worst of us, not the best of us. And that is because we have applauded the results, so to speak, and not the process, right? So that is for us as a society. So how do we resolve that? Because many people will just say, our problem as Nigeria are the leaders. I don't think that's it. I think the problem in Nigeria is the society. You and I, every single person. What do we applaud?
So who's the society?
So what do we applaud? How do we change what we applaud? Because I don't think it's just about holding conferences and saying this is how we change what we applaud, because it is engraved internally. You see a mother that is poor and the child brings home a Jeep. A child that does not know anything or do anything brings home a Jeep. The whole society.
You're going far. You're going far about the mother that is poor and the child brings a Jeep. Even talk about the mother that is, or rather the parents, so not just women. Yeah. Think about the parents, that went to the child's school, to bribe the teacher so that the child can move from one class to the other. Or the parents that got someone to write SSC or any exam, and some of those things is what parents did for their children. And then how do you expect that boy or that girl that knows that he or she didn't sit for that exam, he or she did not read for that exam, he or she graduated from this school because the dad or the mom could give somebody money, he or she even got this job not because he or she is competent, to do the job. How do you expect the person to perform on the job? How do you expect the person to perceive values,
Right. So for that one, because we have limited time, I would not want to address, because that feels like a human problem. If you go to US, I even remember a case of probably a popular actress that paid for a child to get into a popular university, and that became a scandal. But I'm trying to pinpoint our something that is very unique to us, which is applauding results, so to speak. So
Without
how do we
process.
social engineer ourselves to applaud the right things, which is, that guy's example that became a special advisor. He says he is okay working probably from work back home, but people keep insulting him both on social media. In fact, someone dragged him on social media that why would a special advisor be entering a public vehicle, right? So that is the sort of thing that we are. I don't want to say that we are dealing with. It is what we are and we are dealing with. So how do we social engineer ourselves to be better?
So the question is about how we can each take personal responsibility, not even as a society. Out of the hundreds or thousands of people watching this, even if it's just a few of them, that can make a decision. And part of how we can do it is to watch the people you follow. None of us is smart. Not you, not myself, not anybody watching this. None of us is smart. Every one of us, we are smart as the influences we subject ourselves to. So who is influencing you? Who is influencing you? Every now and then you see people on social media, they say they are influencers. And what they are saying is true, right? But those are the ones that call themselves influencers. Now, who is influencing you? What is the character of, maybe it's your sibling that's influencing you. The person you say you're looking up to that you want to be like, what's the person's, character? I read a book many years ago, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You can read it. It talks about personality ethic and character ethic. Personality ethic is all about results and everything you can see out there. Character ethic, it's about the strength of character of the individual, right? That you have good self-esteem, that you are not tossed to and fro by what people are saying their opinion is. It's not that you are strong-willed. It is just that you have core values that you hold on to. That people will call you names that you think you are the one that's always right. This is Nigeria now. Everybody knows the way. Like you said earlier, the game is the game. But you are not part of that game. That you have values that you stick to. So who's influencing you? Because the moment we continue to point fingers at society, at people, at leaders, at parents, at me, what am I doing to ensure that this is not how I end up? And that's not subject to public opinion, because the moment we make it a public opinion thing, that people will start debating and start, looking for holes in whatever the person is saying or doing. So it's about to pay attention to what is influencing you, because whether you think you are strong-willed or not, the moment you yield yourself to some kinds of conversation, that is who you will become, eventually. So if we want to build a society where we are not just celebrating where we're not celebrating what is not important, where we really want to put our energies into the values, into character development, into competence development, it is ensuring that people take personal responsibility for the change that they want to see.
Okay, so I said 2 things before. I wanted to touch on society and core values, which is personal. But at the end of the day, from what you just said, they are not different things. Yes, society expresses the opinion of the many, but at the end of the day, the many is still individuals that express that. So if we are going to be better, then it needs to be from an individual grassroots perspective. Grassroots work needs to be done. So if you want society to be better, it is more about how are you better, right? So if you are better, then you can now deal with how are the first 3 people around me better. But at the end of the day, it's still about how are you better. So if every single person is responsible for applauding something positive, then we would have a society that applauds something positive. You also said something about influencers. What are you influenced by? And that is very true, actually. Like, what are people influenced by? What are we influenced by in society currently? Are we influenced by I don't want to talk about the things we are influenced by, because if you see the things we are influenced by in society, then I guess it paints an image of what we are or who we are as a society. When I say things, I mean that
I don't
the
think so.
major people.
I don't think so. It's about what you put a spotlight on and what you make popular. When you make something popular, it gives a sense that that is what almost everybody is doing. Somebody said that it is not that there are no people to love. It's not that we don't have people that care. It's because we put the spotlight more on people that don't care. It's not that we don't have good people with sound character. It's because we put the spotlight on those who don't have sound character. It's not that we don't have a lot of amazing young people. It is because there are times we put the spotlight on those who are, you were talking about how people communicate, on social media. So it is about making the right thing popular. And then somebody will say, no, who wants to watch? Okay, just imagine. You have somebody that is talking about doing things right, doing things right, doing things right. Nobody will watch. Just talk about someone that opens chests and show there. Then everybody will want to watch. And then because some people think that that's what the human mind gravitates towards, then you want to feed us more. Yes, the human mind may gravitate towards that, but why don't we make greatness popular? Why don't we make core values popular? Why don't we make diligence? Why don't we make the reward for diligence, popular? Why do we spotlight people who are making smart moves? And by smart, I'm not talking about diligence. I'm not talking about excellence. I'm talking about people shoving people, people scamming people. Why do we put more spotlight, on that? And so we want to make, if we make the right things popular, perhaps we'll be able to save more people.
I see. I agree 100%. Okay, so I want to move to something else. I think you are a big advocate for SDG 5, right? Gender equality.
5 and 8. Yes.
5 and 8. So I don't know if you wrote somewhere that emotional intelligence is linked to SDG 5 and 8, but I would like to ask specific questions. So how can women rise through a traditionally men-dominated role? I don't know if emotional intelligence is also attached to that, but I before this researching for this podcast, I wouldn't have said, oh, let me attach emotional intelligence to that. I would have just said that is a problem that probably needs to be solved on its own. So,
okay, I like the fact that you're trying to ask 4 questions in one. You want to touch on emotional intelligence, touch on women, touch on SDG 5, but it's okay. For the question, how can women thrive in the male-dominated space? Let me start by congratulating every woman that is doing excellent work, as we speak.
I know many.
And let me also congratulate the women that have made it easier for other women to see the possibilities that women have worldwide. One of the things I'm super excited about this period is having 11 female CEOs in the banking sector. I thought that's a great thing, that we should applaud and continue to extend, right? One of the ways to thrive in a male-dominated environment is not to see yourself as a woman and the other person as a man. Is you want to see yourself as a player in the industry. When you see yourself as a player in the industry, it means you are asking, what are the things that I need to do to become successful in here? Because I continue to find that there are people who have allowed their gender themselves, to hold them back. In my book, The Peak Performing Woman's Companion, I talk about 7 self-limiting beliefs that are common with women. And this is from research, some work I've done for 15 years before coming up with this. So I wasn't just armchairing. And one of them is the woman's belief in her capacity. Her belief in her capacity to deliver. That she thinks first about herself in an industry as a woman and not as a player in that industry. And when you think about yourself first as a woman, and then you're now thinking about also some feedback words, that you have received. I call it feedback words, not feedback. Feedback is positive. Feedback tells you what you can do better. Feedback word focuses on what you are doing wrong, right? And so because of feedback words, then they don't believe in their capacity to deliver excellence. And so because of that, when people are seeking people to give certain responsibilities to, and they pass them by, right? They pass them by. You have women passing women by because, not because the woman doesn't care about the other woman, but because the other woman has not shown capacity, right? And by the way, in the marketplace, the truth, I run a business. What I'm looking for is who will give me value, who will add value to me. Now, because of my bias, of course, I also embrace more women, to work, to have opportunities. But generally, people are looking for people who have results, people who can give them results. So if you want to thrive in a male-dominated space, be result-oriented. Bring results. Now, I get it. There's the bit of, you're even trying your best, and then it's looking like it's not appreciated, it's not seen. The second thing to do to that is build relationships, build networks with women, with men alike, right? Because many times people sitting at the table, what makes them to make decision of the direction of budget or the direction of opportunities? Affinity plays a big role in that. Who you know, how they feel about the person that they're engaging, right? And there are people that would say, some women that would say, you know what, because I'm a woman, and then what the other person may be looking for may not be something I'm willing to give. They're talking about sex, right? But the thing is, it's not even in the majority, right? When you build relationship with a demonstration of value, nobody wants to. I don't know of anybody that wants to lose his money, his business, the growth of his business, sacrifice that on the altar of some 5-minute thing. Even if there are people like that, I don't think. I
wanted to say there are people.
Yeah, you can count them, right? So I'm saying that for women, it's important that you know that the battle begins with your mind, not even the society. It begins with your mind. So you need to position yourself to be a peak performing woman. Who is a peak performing woman? A peak performing woman is a catalyst of socioeconomic development. A peak performing woman is the one that is delivering excellence every time in whatever she finds her hands to do. A peak performing woman is the one that is breaking barriers by the results she's delivering. And she's delivering these results with utmost competence. She's delivering these results with utmost integrity, right? She's delivering these results with compassion and with courage, as well. Not allowing any self-limiting belief, to hold her back. We're in a better place now than where we were before, where we've been able to do a lot of work, increasing the awareness of girl-child education, increasing awareness of ensuring that women have more opportunities. And it's now important for more women to rise up, and take advantage of this, to drive change, to drive growth in our country.
So you think, which I might slightly agree with, that one of the biggest problems is actually a mindset problem of the limitation. And I think society does not help. Sorry for always going back to society, but society does not really help when they spotlight too much in terms of women are always suffering. There is this particular, let's say, race, for example, that is always oppressed. I don't know if those particular things are actually causing more harm than good. Yes, we know for sure that many people are oppressed, right? We also know for sure that you might say there are just a few people that a few leaders out there that would sacrifice their business for sex. But I believe kingdoms have been burnt to the ground on this earth just for that,
of
right?
Course.
So, but the point is still, I feel like I think there's a psychic sort of thing to it where we are spotlighting the bad side too much, when we could actually just focus on the future and get things done, even where there exists no bias. I think we introduce that bias.
Yes.
So it's a mindset problem. Because if your mindset was even good to begin with, the bias might be there and you don't even notice it because you just focus on your work and you get things done, right?
Yeah. So, and in addition to that, you talked about focusing on the bad side. I mean, on our own platform, one of the things we've done and we continue to do, is spotlighting women who despite all the odds, are delivering excellence. We do that through the peak
performing woman.
yeah, the peak performing woman
yeah.
of the year. And then every week, we spotlight these women. And why do we do this? One is to encourage these women themselves, the individual woman that we are spotlighting, that we see you, well done, keep doing more. We stand with you in any way we can help with resources, to coach you, to train you, to help your people to deliver excellence, that we're here with you. That's on one side. On the other side is for the woman, the other woman, whether she's young, whether she's old, doesn't matter. But the other woman that is watching. So she's seeing a woman like her. Whether this woman is in her industry or not, she's seeing the woman grow. She's hearing the story of the woman, how she has overcome similar challenges, with herself. And she's seeing how this woman has not allowed the challenge to hold her back. And so that becomes an inspiration, to that woman. You also said something which is very important, that there are times people introduce bias where there are no biases. So with the consistent featuring of this kind of women who didn't just jump up, who grew up the ranks, with a consistent featuring of these women, we can have younger women, listening to their story, learning more about them. And another thing that I would like to say, since we're talking about women, is there's the notion that women don't support women. And that's a fallacy. And it's important for both senior women and younger women to pay attention to their interaction. Because there are many times the problem is not the senior woman. There are many times the problem is the younger woman, who is seeing, instead of you admiring and getting inspired by what you see and learning as much as possible, you think that senior woman is actually your problem. And that's also a mindset for the younger woman. So and instead of, putting yourself in a place where you can be inspired and guided by this woman, you see yourself as competition. That is not your mates, That you see yourself as, as competition, instead of you to be inspired by the achievement and the guidance, of that senior woman. And also for senior women, it's important that we allow more younger women to learn from us, to glean from our wisdom, so that we build a more equitable society.
I couldn't agree more. I was not going to touch on this, but I guess it is very important so that there is a balance, and which is men. I was not going to touch on it at all, but I think it's best we do that slightly so there's a balance. So for men, I think for men, it is not about fighting to be in the same level as women, as we just talked about now, where probably women have to do twice as much work as it is perceived. For men, I think it is about not acknowledging I don't want to say it's the soft side, but the ability to to demonstrate weakness. I don't know. I think society frowns against that for men. I think men always have to be strong.
I think men are in trouble. I think we're in trouble because of what you said, that we're expected to be strong. And I also think women give men too much credit. Because I've heard some conversations where women will say, for men, it is easier because it's like this. And then I look at my career, how it was not easy, how even in certain instances, the women, had a higher chance of success than me. And I give you an example. At some point in time, I was in a sales role, a business development role. And if I get into an office, to meet with a prospect, whether the person is male or female, I'm at a disadvantage compared with my female colleague. Why? If the person we meet with is female, the person is more open. I will say, women supporting women. If the person is male on the inside, I will say, you're a man now, you can go and sort out yourself. So let me help this woman. So, but men are in trouble. And it's important for us to know and be conscious of the kind of society we want to build, which is why it is gender equality. It becomes gender inequality if we overcompensate with the women and we ignore the men. The same problem of patriarchy that we are complaining about, we create the reverse of that, which is matriarchy, right? And now, if you're on the table making decisions and it favors you, you'll most likely say, yes, let's do it. But that thing will only favor you in the short term, because you also have relatives who will be affected by the reverse side of what has been created. So, which is why even the UN carefully called it equality, such that we give everybody a chance. I had the opportunity to speak at to commemorate the International Women's Day this year for one of the big four consulting firms. The theme of this year's Women's Day is inspire inclusion, and I defined inclusion as giving everyone the opportunity to thrive in the organization, in that organizational context. Giving everyone, which is male and female, not male over female, not female over male, but giving everybody the opportunity. Yeah, some will grab it faster than others, and that is not because of the agenda. That is most likely because of their openness. So it may be a man that grabs more or a woman that grabs more, but there's opportunity given to everybody. And that's where we have control. So where I have control is where I give you. I don't have control over how you take it, right? So that's the kind of society we want to create. Men are in trouble because we often don't have conversations around helping men. We expect men to man up, and not as a man from a boy child, girl child. There is an attention given to the girl child that is not given to the boy child, because the boy child is just expected to, just to wing it. And so today you've been winging it since you were a baby boy, just winging it. They just expect you should find a way, but you actually don't know jack, but yeah, trying to survive and trying to find a way. Now, because that's the society's expectations, even when you need help, apart from within your guys, and it has to be your guy, right? Apart from within that, when you need help, you hardly, speak up, because you're expected to shut up and man up, right? You are dying inside, you are depressed, but you're expected to man up. Now, the only thing we see is your outward expression. We didn't see what's going on the inside of you. And once we see your outside expression, we will blame you. Rather than help you, rather than empathize and listen to you, what we'll do is we will blame you. We have a lot of structures, that talks about the responsibility of a man. So all you've been hearing about since you were in primary school is that responsibility. Then you are wondering that, well, I'm just a child. Now you're now an adult. That responsibility, they multiply it by 10 or by 100. The responsibility. So if we really want to build an enduring society, is we want to be sure that we pay attention to our men, pay attention to our women, solve the problem of inequality. Another big part of inequality that we don't address is not gender inequality. It's socioeconomic inequality. There are families that for the past 100 years, they have been in poverty. And it doesn't look like they will leave poverty in another 50 years. And then one of them will now find an opportunity and bring Jeep home. And then you now say the parents should ask. When the parents know that their grandparents, their great-grandparents, nobody even rode a car. Then some guy has done whatever it is he has done, and he can bring this in. I think it's important for us to also check that socioeconomic inequality, because nobody is supposed to be poor for life and an entire generation. But also, again, where we have control is giving the opportunity. Whether people take the opportunity or not is a different conversation.
Thank you for that. So what are your thoughts on emerging technologies and the opportunity they provide for enhancing emotional intelligence? I also have a question I want to package with that, which is, what apps or tools can individuals or companies leverage to improve their emotional intelligence? So I guess.
Okay. So I will answer the two questions, king of packaging multiple questions in one. So I'll answer the two questions. One is, you see this phone? The phones we go about with, many of us, our phones are smarter than us. Because the phone is controlling us instead of us controlling the phone. So that's the beginning of using technology to manage our emotions. Can you put your phone away, for 1 hour and have a meaningful conversation? So you're on a date. I don't know if you've seen it. Two people are on a date. After they place the order for their meal and they are waiting for the meal, each one of them is on the phone pressing. They are not chatting each other, of course. What's the purpose of the date? The food is not the date. It is the interaction that's the date, right? So we have lost control over ourselves. It's the phone that controls us. I saw someone on a bicycle yesterday, and the person was pressing the phone. I'm not sure you appreciate what I just said. I didn't say in the car. A car is more protective. Even a bike is more protective because you don't have as much activity driving the bike as you have driving the bike, because you are riding the bicycle to move. And this guy still had opportunity with one hand to be checking phone while riding the bicycle. He's not even thinking about his safety, right? That is where we are. That is what technology has done. No, that is what we have allowed technology to do to us. It's not technology that did it. It's individuals that allowed it. So you want your willpower. You want to leave your phone. You want to have meaningful conversations with people. You don't want to become antisocial, by chatting with people you don't know, you will never see, you may never get to know, and even picking a fight with people you may never get to meet one-on-one. So you want to be in charge of your life and not the phone to be in charge. Now, on another side, you can use the phone to plan your life, to plan your day. How many times do we have an alarm on when to wake up? And when you set the alarm with your phone and the alarm goes off, you don't snooze and snooze and snooze and get into procrastination. That you have a meeting, you put it on your phone. For example, the moment we agreed on time for this, I had it on my phone. And then if your meeting is for 12 noon, for example, you don't put 12 noon on your phone. That is when your phone should remind you. You put some 15 minutes or 30 minutes. If you need to commute to where the meeting will hold, you want to schedule it appropriately so that maybe like 1 hour to the time, the phone reminds you that, hey, you need to get on your way right now. So that's part of how we can use technology. I know we like to talk about AI. We like to talk about, those really, massive things, big data. And then when we're having those conversations in some technology forum, everybody will be feeling like, they are intellectuals. But the basic little things that you can use technology for, but you have allowed technology to be controlling your life, are things we should pay attention to. And when we get the little ones right, we'll get the bigger ones right.
I totally agree. For the guy riding his bicycle, and maybe it's a new superhuman power, because there are many people, even when they drive and they are pressing their phones, it just gets me worried, because I'm sure many accidents have happened.
Yes, a lot. And I've seen that. I've seen this driving, pressing phones. It's shocking. I've seen bike. But the one I didn't believe I could see was a bicycle and still pressing phone. Please, there's no superhero, superhuman. Please don't try it. Don't even try with cars driving. Don't try with bikes. Don't try with anything. I beg. It's for your safety.
Not just your safety. I think you're also responsible for the safety of those others around you.
Yes.
Because, okay. So, rounding up, you have an international leadership bootcamp coming. Can you speak a bit more about that? Because it would be an injustice for you to speak about things that are helping people, and we don't also speak about some of the things that you've put together to help people. And I know you've already mentioned the Peak Performer a lot. Maybe you can just speak a bit about that for those that might be interested in such a platform.
Okay. So the Leadership Bootcamp, it's the Dr. Abiola Salami International Leadership Bootcamp. We held an edition in Nairobi, Kenya last year. It was totally awesome. proud of myself. You know, it was totally awesome. We had leaders from all over, to a time of rejuvenation, a time to reskill, a time to re-strategize as well. And so we're taking leaders all over the world to Mombasa, Kenya this June, on the conversation on driving transformational leadership with the magic of emotional intelligence. We have my professor who wrote the foreword for my book, The Magic of Emotional Intelligence, Harvard professor, will be with us, again, and a number of other facilitators from across the globe. So it's a big global leadership boot camp that is happening in Mombasa for 7 days. We'll be there, and we're having daily relaxation schedule. So it's not just about learning. There's relaxation as well, so that you come back or you go back to your work refreshed, with new strategies you can use to drive a culture of peak performance in your organization. Anyone interested, you can just follow me at Abiola Champ on all social media platforms. You find the information there, or you can check www.abiolachamp.com/Mombasa 2024. abiolachamp.com/Mombasa 2024. All the information is there. We're having campfire night, movie night. I mean, you can't afford to miss it. Just
You'll
save
see the link on your screen.
Yeah, just okay. I'm told you see the link on your screen. You can't afford to miss it, though. So it's a really big one, and it's leaders from across the globe that are coming together for this. And you talked about the peak performer. That's the platform we created to continue to provide insights on the go, for leaders. And when we hear leaders, let's not just think about people who are in position. Let us think about anybody that is in the marketplace or that is considering getting into the marketplace. Because the challenge we have with positional leadership is we assume that it's people sitting on the desk. It's about people sitting on the desk. And you have a lot of young people who are aspiring to sit on desks. But that's not what you should aspire to be. You should not aspire for the person's position. You should aspire for the right disposition, which is the right leadership traits that will help you to function excellently in that position. Like we said earlier, that winning election is not success. Even being appointed into any position is not success. Being promoted into another level is not success. Success is how you delivered on the level you have been promoted to. That is what real success is. Because the reason you were promoted, perhaps, we hope, is because you delivered in your previous role, and then because of that they moved you forward, not just because of politics or favoritism or nepotism, that happens, but because of performance, right? And so we continue to provide insights to help people to deliver peak performance, to just imbibe that culture of peak performance, on the platform. You also see the screen, the link on your screen. It's the peakperformer.africa. I mean, go there. There's a lot of content there, and that one is for free. And then you consume. Then you deliver excellence.
So the International Leadership Bootcamp is not for free. I thought it was for free.
Well, it's just for a few $1,000 investment. It's just for a few $1,000.
Is there any chance for what do they call it? A discount? We love discounts.
Of course, I know we love discounts. So we actually have opportunities for group discounts. So a group of 5 people, coming together. Just reach out to us. You have the website on your link. Okay. I mean, you have the link on the screen, so just reach out to us.
So, before we go, these ones are less serious questions. If you could travel in time to meet an historical figure, who would it be and why?
I would like to meet David. David in the Bible.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to meet David in the Bible. I have a few questions, to ask the guy.
Wow, what it was like to kill Goliath?
Yes, what was actually going through his mind when he killed the lion? What was going? I mean, not before he started, when he started that process of killing. What was going through his mind, and then when beyond what was recorded. Because anytime, if I'm not the one sharing my story, if you are sharing my story, you can distort a lot of things. Whether consciously or unconsciously, So when he tried to kill Goliath, and then when they gave him some armor, he said it was too heavy. I mean, what made him think that sling, will kill the guy?
I think you might be rationalizing spiritual matters in terms of what made him think.
right. Well, that's not the purpose of this. Maybe another episode we can have this conversation, and we would see how a lot of things are psychological, what we describe as spiritual. And generally on this continent, when we don't patiently observe something and we don't understand it because we don't pay attention to observing it, and we immediately deify it, right? We immediately deify it, and there are people who understand that that's how we think, and they're cashing on it, big time. And so there's manipulation coming in, deception coming in, and we
propaganda.
And we also celebrate those deceptions and manipulations. So maybe some other time. So, but a lot of things are psychological. Psychology is human behavior. So if you believe that we are created by God, you will know the place of psychology and then the place of spirituality. So those are questions I would like to ask David, and Solomon is another person I would like to ask a lot of questions.
Right. Okay. So lastly, what do you do for fun at your downtime?
Well, you might have observed that yourself. What I do, I play the piano.
I see.
Yeah. Back in the day, there are people that may be watching this now who were probably friends, back in the day, who thought that what they would see me do is music. Some thought that I'll be the next.
It's never too late.
Next Kirk Franklin, and that's because of the dexterity and commitment, to doing it, and which is where values that we're talking about comes in. So whatever your hand finds to do, that you do it with all your strength and all your might. You do it to your very best, and I was doing that, and so the perception was, oh, this is what he's passionate about. And so this is who we become. No, I'm actually passionate about excellence, not as much about the craft. It's about excellence. So whatever it is that I've agreed to do, you see me want to execute with excellence. So I played the piano. I was playing Ashake the other day, and people were watching. Said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I play the piano to chill. I read. Once in a while, if I still have time, I get to act on screen."
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Abiola Salami. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. I wish we had more time, but we do not. And I hope to have you again soon.
It's okay.